This is Clarence Hill with the Stronger Together campaign. I want to share with you what we mean when we say 3 to 5. Years ago, this is speaking perhaps late 90s, I remember talking to a lot of parents who had faced the horrible situation of seeing their children either lose the faith or simply go astray, or they ended up in hard relationships, or the children's marriages went sour. And I would repeatedly hear the same phrase where they would say, I took them to church, I took them to Sunday school, and I just don't know what happened. And this was repeated in my ears over and over and over. So my heart was searching. What does it look like? How can we have any confidence of raising our children? Now, these were not just parents who were flippant about their desires to raise their children. These were faithful people who took their children, like they said, on a consistent basis to church and to be around the people of God. So what really happened? Well, as I pondered on these things, I ended up running across a couple people who said exactly the opposite. They would look at me strange and they would say, wow, children going through rebellious years? No way. They almost looked at me like, what are you thinking? Why in the world would that happen? And so to hear such an opposing viewpoint and to see the fruit of their children, who all started early, serving God and the different things that they believed they were called to do, I said, here, let me slow this conversation down and ask a few more questions. Well, to make a long story short, there is one consistent thing that I've discovered about families who've been able to keep their children from damaging worldly influences. And this one thing is simple. They all did something where, at least on a weekly basis, they would get together with friends, like-minded families who had children somewhere around the same age, and all of these families had one simple thing in common. They wanted to see their children prosper in serving God. They wanted to prosper in fulfilling God's will for their lives, and to see that prosperity in their children's lives and in their own marriages too. And they would have about 3 to 5 other families that they would do life together with. So every Sunday, even some that didn't go to the same church, but typically a lot of times they were in the same church, every Sunday they would get together at someone's house or lake or whatever their place of enjoyment was, and the parents would play with the children. Children would play amongst themselves, and the parents would have their own bond. What would happen was the children would create their own subculture, and they were totally free from the culture of the world. Whatever they thought was cool was cool. Even if going overseas and serving God overseas was the cool thing, that was the cool thing. And so all of the influences of the world were null and void with them, because they had their own subculture. The children didn't have issues with playing with each other, even if they were different ages, and spending time together. So, this of course helps the younger children to learn faster and grow faster. They didn't have age segregation because the parents would spend time playing with the children, volleyball, all types of sports, softball, whatever you can think of, just hanging out and having a good time together. And the parents themselves would spend time weekly, so they'd always be sharing life, praying together, serving one another, being hospitable. And in that context of 3 to 5, they succeeded with their families. And the goal for Stronger Together is not just for us to be able to say that we're unified, which is a great testimony to the world that we represent God's message here on the earth, but it also helps us to grow, because like 1 Corinthians 12 says, we really need each other. We need the depths of wisdom and the experience that's in the body of Christ that others have to give into our lives. and we especially need it because we want our children to grow up and know the Lord at an early age in a day when the culture is very contrary to what's on God's heart. That's what 3 to 5 is. You can get your own 3 to 5. I'm encouraging you to take this initiative as your own. I'm encouraging you to contact us, and we would love to share what we have learned and the different things that we're doing. And people will take this on in many forms. You probably have small groups at your church. You probably have Sunday schools there. Perhaps you're on a ministry team. There you go. Build a 3 to 5 there. Start inviting people over to your home. Start inviting people to do things together. And it doesn't always have to have a Bible in the middle, but you just recognize that Christ is always there, and you always make prayer a part of your life. You make talking about the things of God as part of your life, and you do life together. 3 to 5. Find your 3 to 5. And I especially encourage men and husbands and singles also. Find your 3 to 5 of like-minded men, like-minded couples, like-minded families, like-minded singles, and take on life. Agree on your purposes, share your dreams, and when you see that God has given you someone to do life together with, don't do it alone. The first thing God said that was a negative about man was that it was not good for him to be alone. Find your 3 to 5, and we're here to help, and we're here to serve you, and to keep this conversation going so that God can do great things in our city and in your life. I'm Clarence Hill with the Stronger Together campaign.